Do you take calls in your business, and do those calls eventually lead to new clients or new prospects for you? So what I want to do is make sure that you have somebody amazing on the phone for you. But I know as a small business owner, you probably do not have enough cash to hire a full-time receptionist potentially right now. But it's extremely important. So I wanted to introduce a company that's amazing. They're called Ruby Receptionist. I have vetted them. If you can actually give them a call right now, you can vet them too. It's 855-518-RING. So you can give them a call. They're located in Portland, Oregon. They'll take messages, they'll transfer, they'll actually do follow-up calls and everything. I have talked to the most amazing assistants there at Ruby Receptionist, and they sound like they're coming from my company, which is a wonderful, amazing thing. The better thing is that I don't have to get distracted and take any phone calls, and neither does my assistant or anybody on my team, because Ruby Receptionist can do that. So please check them out. You can also go to callruby.com, but the phone number is 855-518-RING. Feel free to give them a quick call right now and see for yourself.
Potent advice and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I'm Jaime Masters, and today on the show, I have Peter Cook. Peter Cook you can find at petercook.com. Of course, he's a best-selling author of 6 books, even one that's co-authored with Michael Gerber, the E-Myth guy who's absolutely amazing, who also came on the show. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, Peter.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
So, and you're a black belt and you meditate. I was going through your sheet. I'm like, we're going to get along already. Especially, I love talking about systems. And that's sort of where we're going to go down the path. Because you co-authored a book with the Michael Gerber, the systems guy.
No.
How the heck did that happen? Can you tell me a little bit more about sort of upbringing on the systems side of things?
Sure. So I have in one of my businesses, I guess, is pure bookkeeping, which helps bookkeepers put systems around their business. So it's essentially the set of procedure manuals that bookkeepers need to run a bookkeeping business.
Did you used to be a bookkeeper and then you created it and then no? Okay, how'd you do that then?
I was originally a business coach sort of started out my practice as a business coach and did that for a decade. And one of my very first clients was a bookkeeper, Debbie Roberts, and worked with her for a decade. And a lot of what we did was put the systems into her business. So she grew her business. She ended up with a dozen bookkeepers working for her, being able to take time out of the business. And eventually I said to her, your systems are now the best in the industry. You should be selling them to other bookkeepers. But she's a bookkeeper, not an entrepreneur. So she said, that's really nice, Pete. That's a nice idea. But anyway, I've got this really detailed problem in my business that I need to think about.
So how'd you end up taking it? That's awesome.
So eventually I said, all right, we'll do it together. If you can package up the systems you've got like this around the actual bookkeeping itself, around sales and marketing, around HR, we'll have these. At the time, they were physical manuals. And I'll help get bookkeepers in a room. We'll teach them about what they need to do to grow a business, which will all be about systems. And then at the end, we'll say, and here's a set that we produced earlier.
Okay, so if they were manuals, that must have been a while ago. Well, how long ago was that?
This was in 2000.
In 2000. So you've been doing this a long time. Okay, so take me to the trajectory. You must have learned a lot about systems as we're going through. So how did you end up doing the book with Michael Gerber? Was that a while ago too?
Yeah, so then... So that business is now in the US and Canada, and the guy who's running it for us in Canada was actually at a conference where Michael Gerber was speaking and said, in Australia, it would mean a lot to them if you'd sign, they're fans of your book. If you could sign this book for them, they would really appreciate it. And he actually showed them the systems that we've developed. He said, based on your E-Myth, this is what they've done in their business. And Michael Gerber said, wow, these are amazing. I haven't seen anything like these in the industry at all. I'd love to do more than sign a book for them. I'd like to write a book with them.
Wow, that's insane. And we'll go you. So, yeah. Okay, so you're very, very good at the system side of things. So let's actually help all the people that aren't necessarily bookkeepers. All the bookkeepers can get your other book with him, but everybody that's not a bookkeeper, I know you're saying you have a methodology on the system side. Can you walk us through what that is? Because systems are tough for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The business that takes most of my attention and love and care at the moment is Thought Leaders. And so I'm focusing on working with experts now. So people who are coaches and speakers and authors and trainers, and helping that. So that's I guess that's the niche or the niche, as you guys say over there, that I'm working with and helping those guys get their business model right. So there's a lot of kind of struggling experts out there who don't know how to capture what they know and definitely don't know how to market it and position it. And so there's some kind of a specific approach that we've developed to help those guys get that business model right, including building the systems that you need in that specific type of business.
Okay. Can you tell me more about that then too? Because you're right. There's a ton of thought leader people that are listening to this that aren't good at marketing or are really crappy at systems, or for some reason or another, they're not as happy as they could be because there's things that are broken. So walk us through, how do you help people like that? What do we do with them?
So I think the first thing is to get really clear what game you're playing. So lots of people who are running what we call a thought leaders practice, which is one expert, one or two support staff aiming to make $500,000 to $1.5 million. So it's a very specific type of business, but we get told that we should be growing a business. We should be entrepreneurs. All the role models we have are people who are growing big businesses. And so we get well-meaning bad advice if you're trying to grow a thought leader's practice, being told things like you've got to stop trading your time for money. Good advice for an entrepreneur running a business, it's actually bad advice for an expert. An expert is actually in the game of trading time for money. We just want it to be kind of $5,000 to $15,000 days, so it's worth doing it.
Okay, awesome. Tell me more. Give me more. I want to know more.
We also get told you've got to take your name off the door. So this is what Michael Gerber would say for a business, which is exactly right. So if you're playing the business game, I shouldn't be selling pizza pies, because then when I go to sell my pie business, I have to find someone else called Pete to buy it. But as a thought leader, petercook.com is my brand. And so that's one of the key pieces of advice for an expert, is to go hard at your brand.
Okay.
Be Jaime Masters. That's who people want. That's the actual, if they book you to speak, if they bring you in, it's you that they're interested in. And so we want to go hard at that, not kind of shy away from it and hide behind some other kind of corporate front.
Definitely. Especially because that's what I always ask my clients. Do you want to sell this business later? Because if so, it's a very different thing than if you like this and you always want to be the front person. Because I was told a long time ago by my mentors to not even have me as the one person, that I should get other people that are millionaires that are giving advice and blah, 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 and have a whole thing. And that way I can step away. And I was like, this is mine. I really like it. I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of this. I'll start other things, sell those. That's fine. So what's interesting though, is the time for money thing. It's still, when you're the one expert, right? And we've got great systems, thank goodness, but we can always get better. So what can you do? What are some systems that you put in place that really makes a huge difference? I know the value of my time. It's ridiculous, right? And I have a couple of support people and all is well in the world. And it's a lot of me. Everybody wants me and nothing more but me. Does that make sense? So what does someone like me do to put in different systems or new systems or better systems in place that would make all the difference?
So the first thing is your job is to do the thinking, the selling, and the delivery, and nothing else.
Okay, the thinking.
Right? So in an ideal world, it's your IP, it's your ideas, so that's up to you, and then no one's going to sell you better than you. So that still needs to be you.
Oh, to actually do like the one-on-one selling.
Yeah.
Oh, what if the thought leader sucks at selling?
They can't.
Okay.
They've got to get good at it.
Okay.
There isn't. So I hear lots of coaches and thought leaders and people say, like, I really actually love coming up with the programs and I love delivering it. I just don't really want to sell it. So if I can get somebody else in to sell it, and then I'll just do all the delivery. And working over a decade now with thousands of experts, I've never seen it work.
Really?
It has to, I have not got one example where
Really?
I've seen, oh yeah, well here's the thought leader and there's the salesperson they've got next to them, and then that's all worked beautifully.
Okay,
So
so I have someone else sell my lower level programs. So, but I sell my 101 coaching for sure because I need to know if I like
yep,
them. So that's my whole, and I love
yep,
selling, so that's cool. I
yep.
just don't have enough time to sell the some of the other packages that we have. So is that bad too?
No. So
Okay.
obviously
Well, it's working,
there's
so I'm just gonna keep doing it.
yeah, and it's the other piece of that is this idea that we call be a bit presidential.
Okay.
So stealing from, if you watch, I'm a big West Wing fan, and if you ever watch how Jed Bartlett does his phone calls, he's not actually ever dialing, right? He's just has his EA, his secretary say to him, oh, okay, the Prime Minister of Britain, just waiting, okay, he's available now. And like they actually have, like all the people he wants to speak to are just queued up.
That's awesome. They have to
Now,
wait
we're
for
not,
him.
yeah, so I'm not the president, and it's not quite like that. But you want to have that kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
So the opposite is you would have your own cell phone number on your website. That's very unpresidential.
Yes.
Right. So you want to be a little bit unavailable, and so I will have not quite the same, but if I'm driving and I'm making phone calls, I'll have phone calls queued up. All the people that I need to call know that they'll get a call sometime in this hour, and then those numbers are queued up on my phone by my EA who set all of that up. So I just have to press the next button and make the next call.
That's awesome.
Or if somebody wants to speak to me, they'll get an email from my EA saying, here are the slots that Pete's available. He'll call you 10 minutes either side of this time. So it's good for protecting my time.
Definitely.
And it also feels a bit special when you get through to me. It kind of positions me how I want to be positioned. And then again, so it's the same thing. You shouldn't be on the phone selling a $50 thing or a $500 thing and taking 20 minutes to have that sales conversation.
Yeah.
And having people qualify you and having like automatic sales and funnels and things, but that thing is fine. But when it is, okay, I'm going to pay 25 grand and I'm going to work with you for a year.
Yep.
That's going to be you.
Yeah. Tell me what, especially at the very beginning. So I've been doing it a while. I got some good systems. I feel like I do, right? So the people that are beforehand, that are just getting into, that are maybe making even 100 grand and have a couple people, or 200 grand and they have a couple people, or a really good EA, they start to go, what are the most important systems that I need for where I am right now? Because a lot of times the thought leaders, they just want to do the thinking and the delivering, right? So they don't even want to create the system. So tell me a little bit more about what sort of systems we should be looking at. If we have like a checklist or a couple that we can start going over, or how you decide. I know you have a methodology for creating the system that creates systems. So tell me more about how we can do that.
So I think at that level, somebody who's got their first practice manager or EA, and there's that kind of 100,000, say, is the systems around that relationship.
Okay.
So the contract that I have with my primary support person is their job is to make my life easier, and my job is to make their life better. So if I'm sitting talking to somebody who's that role, like they need to be somebody who is kind of fast, who can keep up because we have lots of things going on, and who is very service oriented. So they can see, okay, this is this whole business that Pete's running. These are all these amazing. This is how we're changing people's lives, and anything that I can do to reduce friction and make life easier for Pete helps that. And so I want to be able to ask kind of anything and not have that kind of resentment or that like, oh, that's not That shouldn't be any of that energy.
Yep. I agree. Because sometimes I'm like, where's that thing? I should know where it is, and I cannot remember. So I'm going to ask you because I need it now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And some people will be like, just
yeah,
just look it up for yourself. And then I'll be like, I can, but I have 2 seconds. So go. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's things like in a calendar appointment. So one of the systems for that is I don't think ahead where I'm going to be. So I'll land and then say, okay, where am I going? That's when I'll open my phone and look in my calendar and say, all right, who's picking me up, or have we got a rental car, and where's the venue, and who's the contact person at the venue. And I don't want to have to, like you said, I want it to be really easy, and I don't want to have to be thinking in advance.
Yeah.
And so all of those little systems but they're all about making my life easy, so that I can just be doing the thinking, the selling, and the delivery, and not have any stress about anything else. And then I think my job is anybody on the team, their life gets better through working on the team. So I'm kind of interested in, okay, not what do you need day to day, but where do you want to be in a year, and where do you want to be in 5 years, and what's your big picture for your life, and how does working with us for whatever period help you do that.
That's awesome. Because you care. That's always a good thing. Tell us more, because there could be like a million different, like even just the system of me. I don't look at it in my millionaire interview days until right before I interview everybody. And then I go, what's their website? Yep. And it's all in my calendar invite and all that fun stuff. So I love that too, because we as entrepreneurs can't keep all that stuff in your head, or we can't pre-plan. We're not great at pre-planning because we have so much stuff going on. So give us some more of those systems, because that's the thing that I don't think has a tendency to happen is, especially if we don't hire completely correctly, that EA might not know how to create the best systems to make your life easier, right? So they might be like, oh, well, I know you want a calendar thing, so I'll book you a rental car, but then you don't have it in your locale. Like there's little teeny nuances to all this, which is a pain in the butt if you don't get it right. So how can you enlighten us on the system side, or what some of those things are that we need to do in order to make sure that things don't get dropped, or that we can actually trust the system? Because I think that's one of the big problems too.
Yeah. So I think there's always going to be a gap between what we'd love it to be and where it is. And the two key things. One is have the responsibility for creating the systems not on you. So there should be, so often I will have a request that says, can you please do X, Y, Z and update the process so that that's included next time, and then send me the process. Mm-hmm. So we have a procedure manual that I don't ever actually put stuff into anymore. But whoever is doing the task, if something didn't happen, I'll say this needed to happen. Is this not in the process? Let's document it. So it's kind of ongoingly documented, and have someone else doing that.
Yeah, because no entrepreneur really feels like updating an operations manual at all, right? Pretty much. Well, it's a lot of times it's really detail oriented. A lot of me, speaking for myself, don't like doing that stuff. So tell me a little bit more, because you said in your procedure manual, where do you put that stuff? I know we were talking about you have a proprietary stuff that you guys use, but a lot of people I know are using Google Docs or going down that path, but then it just seems really cobbled together, or they're like, I don't remember when that was last updated. I don't remember where that is. There's pieces. It's sort of like usually a mess.
Yeah. And I don't have a really good answer for where the documents. So we have an internal wiki that we use that seems to work fine, but I don't think it's, and I've played with specific procedure manual software that has
I've tried so many,
a lot more detail around what the roles are and version control. And we just went back to the wiki that kind of, and so I don't have here's the perfect software for it. And I think it's more about that it's being constantly used and updated than what's the actual software.
Well, you're not the only one that says that too. Everybody I know is like, oh, we tried it, and then no, everybody backs away from it, right? And what I'm trying to do is go, well, how can we solve that problem? Because that's the thing. Most people don't. Like it's great if you have a team,
Yep.
and that's the point. We want to get our team to be good enough and know what we expect and actually keep continually updating some of this stuff. And it's a evolutionary process, right? Everybody gets better a little bit at a time. And having a wiki or one sort of like dashboard to have everything is awesome. What is the internal stuff that you created software wise? Because you were saying that it didn't even exist.
Yeah, for our thought leaders,
Mm-hmm.
the things that a thought leader needs to measure, if I say your job is to think, sell, deliver,
Yeah.
you need to track how much thinking you're doing and how much IP you're creating, all your sales activity, so your approaches, your meetings, your sales, and your delivery. And so if I'm mentoring you,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to see all of those numbers really clearly. So each week, how much of all of that have you done? And more importantly, I want you to see that. So I want it to be really front of mind for you to say, here's the thinking, selling, delivering I'm doing against what my target is.
Yeah, because you need to know what the numbers are in order to know if you're making any progress on it whatsoever. So you have to measure it. Okay.
Yeah, and there isn't any software that tracks that, so we had to build it.
How do you measure that? Do you go like, I spent this much time thinking, and do you have like a stopwatch, or do you have like a timer? How do you do that?
No, there's this really interesting thing about being a thought leader is we're never taught to think.
Correct.
So if I say to you, go and spend an hour thinking, you're a thought leader, go and think, you actually don't know what to do. And the default is we think into our programs. So what we do is I go, all right, I've got a training program. I'll design the training program, or I'll design this speech. And our thinking goes into single purpose applications. It's like a training program, but the thinking is now locked in there. I can't pull it out and make it a chapter in a book or a 5-minute slot in a keynote. And so my business partner, Matt Church, Thought Leaders, has developed this amazing process. We call it a pink sheet, or an intellectual property snapshot, or colloquially a pink sheet, because it accidentally got printed on pink paper the first time.
Really?
So there's now thousands of people producing pink sheets. But it's a 1-page way of capturing a single idea and then fleshing it out. So saying, here's the point I want to make. What's the big picture context for that? What's the detail? I want some left and right brain detail to back it up. And then we'd say each one of those is a distinct idea, and that's how we measure it. So we say, how many pink sheets have you done? How many distinct ideas have you got that you can say, here's the point that I can make? And if it's captured like that, you can then slot it into a chapter in a book, or into a module in a training program, or a session in a facilitation process, or it's a coaching session, but it's something that can get used.
That's really cool. Yeah. So you have the intellectual property on one little thing instead of it, like you said, it's in a book, and therefore pulling it out, you have to do something else with it. So how do you do they set aside time to make pink sheets, or are you, while you're on your daily as a thought leader being smart, right? Is it like, oh, I have a really good idea, let me grab a pink sheet and fill it out? Or like, how do they actually do that?
So it's different people. So I'm a kind of systematic, dedicated thinker. So I would actually, in my world, I would actually schedule time. And often and once every quarter I go away by myself into the bush for a few days, and some of that'll be kind of thinking time. But I'll schedule time when I'm going to sit down and actually do it, and do my pink sheets. And what I'll do is, whenever I come up with an idea throughout my day, I'll capture it somewhere, and then I'll sit down and pull out all my different ideas and think, oh yeah, this is how that can work. Matt is the opposite. So he does it all the time in the cracks everywhere. When the plane is about to take off, he'll pull out the sick bag and he'll be drawing a model on the back of the sick bag, and coasters in bars, and wherever there's cracks is kind of how he does it. And he's got a moleskin journal that's always within arm's reach. So
So I stopped at a stoplight the other day and I was drawing a little picture in my little book going like, oh, I had a really good idea, right? Okay, so I must be like Matt. Good to know. Because I was going to ask you, I'm not just I have to meditate or I have to clear my mind in order to actually bring up whatever those ideas are. But you capture the ideas and then you'll sit down with them and schedule the actual thinking process throughout that then.
Yeah. And there's a process saying, okay, if this is the point I want to make, how could I find a model? What's a model I can build that will illustrate that? And then that'll kind of expand it. Mm-hmm. So from one initial point, it then will grow and get deeper. And then when you've got a bunch of these done, you can kind of start to see a body of work coming together. And because it's not just in your head, you can have it out in front of you. You can start to see the gaps and say, okay, that's where I need something. What's that problem? How do I solve that? How do I deal with that?
Huh. So you're creating models. I'm very visual, so I draw images and stuff like that. But what's interesting, or what I found, especially when I wrote my book, it was more holistic when I wrote my book, right? Because you're dealing with tons, so you can make it more linked. So you can have one model that covers the whole thing. Whereas on the pink sheets, it sounds like there's one model for one idea. Then when you have all those ideas, are they just all different separate models, or can you make them go together, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So a model will then have a whole bunch of pink sheets coming off it.
Ah, so you're taking the ideas and then creating a model around more than one. That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah. And often you'll have actually nested models too.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
So we say an offer in a practice is a combination of a message, a market, and a method. Mm-hmm. So it's a message is a domain of expertise that you sell to a specific market, and then you deliver as a speaker, an author, a trainer, a mentor, or a facilitator, or a coach. And so you can think of that as a model that's a three-circle Venn that has message, market,
good old Venn diagrams.
In the three circles. But then if I go into method, then I talked about 6 possible methods: speaker, author, trainer, mentor, facilitator, and coach, which becomes its own model. And I have those 6 in a model, and then there are more distinctions. So there are tell, show, and ask modes in there. There's direct and indirect. That whole model gets unpacked. And then when I go to how do you go to market, how do you sell, I've got a 3x3 model on how to do a sales meeting that lives behind that. So that it kind of keeps coming out.
That's very expansive. How do you know what type of model or what type of graphic, right? There's Venn diagrams. You're saying you have a 3 model, right? How do you decide what goes with what best?
It's a really good question. There's models that come from circles, like a Venn diagram. There's squares, like a quadrant model or a 3x3 matrix, and triangles, which tend to be kind of an ascension model. And sometimes it will just emerge, like as you're pulling it together, there'll be a whole lot of ideas and they'll come into this big matrix. And sometimes the nature of what you're talking about lends itself to a particular shape. If you're talking about cooperation, that's probably going to be a circle model. If it's judgmental and something's better than something else, that's typically a quadrant where you want to go up to the top right corner, and that's what's going to be the best of the elements.
How do you learn that stuff? Okay. So, I mean, that's what's really interesting. Like I teach a lot and I was an art major though. So I don't always just stick within the squares and the, and the bubbles, which is awesome. Kind of annoying sometimes because I feel like too much my creativity can get the best of me. So I like what you do. You can go, okay, I can pick a framework that I know will work within other frameworks. But how do you... Are you just looking to make it easier to listen to and easier to explain? Because that's the other piece. I feel like I've seen models where you're like, I feel like they just squeezed that in there. Like I'm not sure that is really. Do you know what I mean? You're like, that's just sort of a bunch of stuff that they just stuck in a Venn diagram, right?
Yeah. So the geometry has to add something.
Yes. Okay.
And then it helps you explore the relationships. So, for example, the one I talked about, a cluster, an offer to market is a message, market, and method. But then there's intersections. So we go, all right, what ties the message to the market? And then, so I have this message, I have this idea, I have stuff I want to talk about, and I need to find a market. What's the intersection of that Venn diagram? And then problems live there. Because it's actually how you make that link is you say, what are the problems that this IP solves, that this message can solve? And do these have those problems? And will they pay to have those problems fixed? But then you can see how it lives in the model. It actually adds another layer. And when you start to think about, okay, how do you move around the model and what lives at the edges and the intersections? It forces your thinking into places that you wouldn't otherwise necessarily take it.
See, I saw Dan Martell teach the other day. I went to he's a SaaS academy, and he teaches people about SaaS. And he was drawing these models, and it was a Venn diagram, but then there was extra bubbles. And I was like, man, this is genius. Like, I'm so visual, and not that many people show me. I'm like, don't just talk. I need to see it on a sheet. And he did an amazing job at that.
Yeah. And it lets people, it somehow accesses a different part of the brain. So when you see something in a visual model, if it works, it then goes, okay, now I can put everything, I can place I can see where this lives. I can kind of relax. And people, and it also feels like it has a lot more authority when you say, okay, here's how I make sense of this. Here's how I put all of this together. If it is done elegantly and the ideas kind of work, you don't go, oh no, that's just being chucked in.
Yes.
It kind of goes, oh wow, that feels like it's solid.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can hear that and a light bulb goes off in my head instead of being like, now I'm more confused. Well, and that's the thing.
I worked with this amazing architect who designed a house for us, and he had all this geometry that you couldn't see, but there were wings of the house, but he had a big circle that was much bigger. And he said, and what he would say is that you'll never know that the whole house is designed geometrically, but it feels different.
Wow.
If you walk into a house that the geometry's out, you don't know why it doesn't feel right, but it just doesn't feel right. And having a kind of good framework sit behind a body of thinking means when you're learning it, you just go, oh, this all fits. There's an elegance here that makes it much easier to learn and absorb.
Definitely. And we're called like visionaries, right? A lot of especially when you're talking to business owners, and we're visual. Like not everybody sees things differently, of course, but we say see a lot, and it's way easier when you, like you said, you can see it and then you feel like it's solid. Then you want to use it way more. And that's really important as a thought leader to make sure that people get what you're saying and are able to use it and potentially explain it to somebody else. So that way your message can get spread also, which I love. Okay. So you guys must have a lot of pink sheets.
Yes.
How do you know which ones are good and which suck? You throw any of them out?
It's a really good question. Yeah, I think we've got now, from the students in the Thought Leaders Business School now, 15,000 pink sheets that have been uploaded onto
so everybody uploads them too.
Yeah, that's kind of the accountability that the deliverable is. You have to do 101 in the 12 months of the program, and write a book. So that's kind of the thinking part of the program, is everybody has to come up with 101 distinct ideas.
Oh, that's awesome. Why 101?
And, 100 just seemed a bit too much of a round number, so we made it 101.
I like that. That was good. I thought there was going to be some sort of like crazy background for that. Like, no, we like it. Okay.
Yeah. And then how do you know which ones are the good ones? Firstly, it's a volume game. So the mistake people make is try to just come up with good ideas. And what we say is, no, just come up with lots of ideas. And that's part of the 101 too. Like, that's so many. You have to be coming up with a couple every week, that you can't just wait for the good ones. You just have to get them all out. And sometimes you're too close to know what's good. So often you'll say something that is kind of obvious to you, but is profound for other people. But it's just you've been living with it for so long that you go, oh, that's just, doesn't everybody know that? So sometimes it just helps to have other people see it.
That's awesome.
And sometimes everybody has this experience going through this process of getting to a point where it feels like something's just coming through you. And you put something down and you go, oh, wow, I don't know where that came from, but that is good. I wish I knew that 5 years ago. That would have helped me so much. That is, and it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it comes through us.
I love that feeling. It's like being in flow, like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Especially when afterwards you go, that's actually good.
Yeah. And it's why meditation practice, I think, is so important, or some kind of mindfulness practice, so we can get out of our own way and let that happen.
Okay, tell people a little bit more about that, because the people that are listening that are thought leaders or coaches or consultants or whatever, they're probably anybody having to actually think, which is a lot of us that are listening right now, right? So how have you used, or how do you recommend somebody use meditation to help facilitate for this? Because a lot of people are pushing, and I've been talking about meditation way too many times on the podcast. Everyone's probably sick of me talking about it, but I think it's so important. So tell me, how can you get people to do pieces of that to help with it?
Yeah. So there's an exercise saying in the personal training world that the best exercise is the exercise you actually do.
Yes.
And I think meditation is a bit the same. So whatever works, I have a distinct practice and I meditate an hour every day, and I've done that for coming up to 4 years. Haven't missed a day.
You haven't missed a day?
No. And I have a practice and I have a teacher, but for me it's actually, and one of the things my meditation teacher says is that 100% committed is easy, 99% committed's hard.
That's why you have not missed a day. Okay, that makes so much sense.
Which is really, I think, really profound. So for me, it's actually hard being most committed, because then but having that little, well, if other things really come up, but it means every day there's a conversation going on in my head about, is today, will I fit it in? What else is happening? But if I've said no, that's it. I've promised my teacher, I'll promise myself, no matter what, if I've been delivering all day, if I don't get home till 10 o'clock at night and I haven't meditated.
Okay, so that was fun. So go internet across the oceans. So I know we have to start wrapping up, because I know this it was amazing and awesome, and we went down a bazillion different rabbit holes. So thank you for that. Let me ask you the last question, though. It's, what's one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of 1 million?
Yeah, I think we underestimate our mojo and how important that is in our practice. And it's the thing that I try to prioritize in my own life, that what people are actually buying is, sometimes we'd say the time, we'd talk about maybe it's what's the value deliver, but the thing that sits under all of that is my mojo. And when I'm on and in flow, everything just works better. And yet that seems to be the thing that disappears the easiest. So the thing that we can most quickly let go of are the things that look after ourselves. And so when you say what is one action that you can take this week, is I'd recommend picking one thing that you do for your own mojo that feels indulgent, that feels like you really have more important things to do, that really it shouldn't be squeezing it in, and make that the priority. And schedule that in each week, whether it's a walk in nature, it's a massage, it's something social, it's something that you know lifts your mojo, and put that in each week. And as we're talking about, make that the highest priority. Be 100% committed to that thing, whatever it is.
And I love that you're giving them permission, because they probably wouldn't do it on their own. So we need to be slapped around to do things we like. Isn't that silly? But the fact that you gave them a reason makes it so much better. Oh, that will help my business in the long run.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I used to work in a big consulting firm, and then like Accenture, and then left to start my own business coaching business. And I used to see, so this was pre-kids, I used to go and see a movie by myself in the afternoon, like just go and see a matinee movie. And part of it was just in my own mind, just to break this construct that this is how I should be living, like 9 to 5, we should be working, and it's wrong to do that. And to just, try and mess a little bit with my own mindset around what life looks like and what work looks like.
It's all a belief anyway. You can do whatever the heck you want, but we don't give ourselves enough permission. Awesome.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for coming on. And where can we find more about you and online and what you've got to deliver? I know you've got your site. Tell us about that.
Yeah, petercook.com. I had to wait a decade to get petercook.com.
I was going to say, it was impressive.
Yes. So I waited a decade till an English comedian died, and then it went up to auction and attracted all that time. So I now own petercook.com. You can go there. You can find white papers about how to grow a thought leaders practice. We have a book, The Thought Leaders Practice, which you can also find there. And that's where you can get in touch with me. Hope to see you there.
Definitely. And for all those bookkeepers, we didn't talk about that. You can get that booked from him too.
Yeah. so that's purebookkeeping.com if you're a bookkeeper.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on today, Peter. I really, really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want to check out more amazing resources, I'm only curating the best of the best. Go check out eventualmillionaire.com. You can take the Eventual Millionaire quiz, figure out where you are in business and what you need right now. Plus, you can look at curated resources specifically for you on the new Start Here page. I'm so excited. Please join us. Please let me know if you need anything at all. I'm here for you. And have a fantastic day. Bye. Spot.
Sure.
When I lost you. Because when I lost you, I was like, it'll pick back up. And then I was like, no, it's not. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Awesome. That'd be great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. See ya.
Bye.